Where is it that a lot of people put money currently? Right, the eighth wonder of the world, right? And why do most of them do it? Matching funds, that's a big place. Yeah, and who told them to do it most of all? And Susie Orman and their CPA, right? Which here's God, here's the CPA, man. He's right there, and so whatever he says is the way it is, right? Okay, so let's look at this, and let's take a 35-year-old out to 70. No, let's go to 65. Sorry, Kim. Let's put in $100,000 of current assets and an 8% savings rate. That 100,000 at 8% over this 30 years or 31 years would grow to $1,086,767. When people see this, it's like, why do I need to do anything else? Let's look at a payment. Not only are you doing this, but you're putting in the maximum of 17.5 now. And when we do that, we see $3.4 million out here at the end. But not only that, we're getting an employer match. 50% match, that's what we heard, right? But when we look through your documents, what we see is it is a 50% match, but it's 50% on the first 2% of your gross income. Okay? You're making $150,000 a year, so that's $3,000 match max, which means you're actually getting $1,500 a year added from your employer. Does that make sense? Okay. But hey, that's great. That still bumped us up. Our employer, based on that 8% rate, is actually contributing an additional $274,000 to our plan, and that moves us up to a rate of return of 8.25%. And that's hard to understand. Well, wait a second. If I'm getting 50% on my money, why did my return go from 8 to 12? And the problem is it's only on a portion, and the larger that asset gets to be, the less impact those matched dollars have on it. And so here at 8.25, our account would grow to a total of $3,600,000 now. What about tax advantage? Oh yeah. Right? Well, I mean, that's what we're told is, and typically by our CPA, is that we get a tax credit for putting money in here. We get to earn money on the federal government's money. We have all these things that we've been told. So let's look at that. So again, this individual is 150,000 of gross income, which got them their match, and they're paying maybe 120 after the deductions in income. So that puts them in a 25% tax bracket. So what happens is their top marginal bracket is at 25%. So that deferral that they get actually gives them credit at the top marginal bracket at 25%. So they're getting the maximum amount of deferral they can. And if we turn on the tax deferral, what we see is $807,000 attributed to that tax deferral. So basically that's the money we earn on the federal government's money. And that moves our rate of return up to 9.5%. This is usually about as far as we hear about what's going on with somebody's plan. And you think about all the information out there. There's so many people that are doing without in order to put money in these plans because it's been talked about from the standpoint of how great the tax deferral and how great all these other pieces are. What hadn't been talked about is the reality of some other things that go on inside the plan. And that's the tough part because it's really pretty much behind the scenes. And unfortunately, nobody's talking about it. But if we go to the management fee first, and the thing about it is there are some Bloomberg videos out there. There's several things. And they talk about the tremendous fees that exist inside a qualified plan and then also in the underlying mutual funds. If we look at that, the fees are probably in excess of 4.5%. But what I want to do is let's just look at this in a better light. Let's use 2%. And at 2%, we can see our rate of return went down to 7.4. So the reality is 2% in fees took away all of the free money that we got from our employer, plus the money we got from the federal government, plus a little bit more. What did Norman used to say? You know, this thing came from the federal government, right? That's who created it. If you believe the federal government's going to help you out, ask an Indian, right? They invented the totem pole and they're at the bottom of it. All right. So 7.4%, and we paid out. This is what's really incredible to me. What we paid out in actual fees is $572,000. But turn the fees off for just a minute. Without the fees, the account value is 3.6 million. With the account fees, it dropped to 2.2. We lost $1.4 million in assets by paying out $572,000 in fees. How is that possible? Well, it works just like the taxes did earlier. Unfortunately, the fees come out all along the way, not at the end. So as soon as a fee comes out, it quits earning for the rest of that time span. So here, $572,000 worth of fees took away $1.4 million in future assets. Now, unfortunately, the federal government hung this carrot out there on what they gave us, but they expect to get those dollars back in the future. So if we look at the tax in the future and add that, now this assumes liquidating the account at, in this case, age 65, which is not going to happen, because I doubt the accountant would let you do that, because you would see this problem. We would see, though, here, and we'll stretch it out in a minute, $858,452 paid in tax, which ends up with a rate of return of 5.22%, if we can do 8% in the market every year for 30 years without ever having a down year. That's a pretty serious rate of return. Okay, we'll adjust that in a minute as well. But what I want to talk right now about is something that's kind of interesting. Will you get me just a basic calculator? Okay, so think about this. The 100,000, and I'm just going to assume that the 100, they were in the same tax bracket and they were getting a deferral at 25%. So basically, of the 100 that's in there, 75,000 is theirs, $25,000 is what would have gone to the federal government, but instead was put into the qualified plan. Does that make sense? So we've got 25,000 there, and then we've also got, for every 17,500 that went in, the federal government missed out on 25% of that in tax, correct? Okay, so sorry, Kim, we're going to have to do it in the other order. I need the 17.5 times 0.25. So what it means here is, when she hits enter, that $43.75 per year the federal government missed out on, right? Is everybody with me? Okay, we multiply that by 31 years, is $135,625, plus the $25,000 they missed out on for the money we already have in there, is $160,625. So remember, we're supposed to be earning interest on the federal government's money, right? Well, the federal government gave up $160,625, and yet they collected $858,000. So my question is, who earned money on the federal government's money? See, the federal government can't invest in the stock market. Guess what? Isn't that what they just did? The difference is they just put us in between it. What's really amazing is, what do you think their rate of return is on this? Will you get me a rate calculator? So $25,000 they put in up front. 4370. I don't remember. Let's do equal 17,500 times 0.25. Okay, $43.75 a year for 31 years. Sorry, to get 858,452. How do you like that? They got 8.02% out of it. And our return was 5.22. You have to wonder when they're handing out, they need tax dollars and yet they're giving us a deal. Okay? What if we didn't make 8% every year for 31 years? Would we be happy with 6 across that time? That would be phenomenal. At 6, it's 3.29%. What happens here if a deal of a lifetime comes along, say 10 years into this? Can we take advantage of that with our qualified money? That money's in jail, isn't it? This money's locked up. We don't have any access to it. One of the things, I don't know if Nelson has said it yet or not, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but if you're in a position of cash, opportunity will seek you out.
Yes. Track you down.
What happens if my cash is in this qualified plan? Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So supposedly, though, this is going to be better if I stretch this out. And in fact, they've come up with these stretch distributions that go across, I don't know, 4 or 5 generations. So basically, nobody gets any money. That to me is 100% tax. But never mind that. Let's just take this out because we showed it lump sum, which is, again, not what somebody's going to do. So let's stretch this out. Let's go out to age 90. And we'll withdraw enough to pay it down over that time frame. That moved me from 3.29 out to 4%. It really didn't make much difference, did it? And what's amazing is, look how much we paid. Well, it actually helped our taxes a little bit, didn't it? They went to 605,000, reduced them a little bit. But again, we had to wait on the money, and it didn't have a big impact on our overall rate of return. What do we think taxes are going to do? Does anybody think they're going to go down? So how have they been so effective in making us think that it's going to be a better thing not to pay the tax now and pay it at a time when we think taxes are going to go up? I'm so sorry. My goal is to be in the highest tax bracket possible. I'm sorry, but this may go against the grain, but that is my goal. It doesn't mean I want to pay any more tax than I have to, but it means I want to qualify for the highest bracket because that means I can eat, okay? And to plan to be in the lowest tax bracket possible, to me, is not a plan at all. I mean, that just, that's right.